All right, it does look like we're recording, so feel free to get started. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, Gabby, thank you so much again for setting this up. And Gabby talked a little bit before about me, but my name is Angel and I graduated from FIU not too long ago. I used to compete in these competitions too, so it's really nice to come full circle and kind of do the same thing. So I'm excited. We already recording this meeting, so I think we're all set there. But a couple of ground rules that I want you guys to feel comfortable with is don't be shy to ask any questions. There's absolutely nothing that is off limits. Any question is a good question. Make sure to participate if there's something that pops out at you. I'm here to try to help as much as I can. And of course, thank you guys already. I see a lot of you have your videos turned on. It's not required, but definitely nice to have. So with that being said, let's just get started. So a couple of things about how this meeting is kind of this training is gonna play out is we're gonna do some introductions, which I already did. I'm Angel. And then we're gonna get into what exactly is HubSpot, what is the competition format for the GBSC, and some tips and do's and don'ts for the competition. And at the end, if there's any questions, then we could go ahead and address those. By any chance, if there's a point where there's some questions, I might defer it to later on in the meeting because it might be answered depending on what the question is. But all right. So HubSpot, what is it? What we are, we like to base ourselves as a growth platform. We have this flywheel right in front of us. That's what you're looking at. And it kind of describes our business model and what we like to achieve. So there's the attract, engage, and delight. And what this represents is a growth platform. So we take the strangers that are very cold leads and we use inbound marketing to attract them. And then the process kind of funnels into that, and then we engage them throughout our CRM, and we do our prospecting, and then the delight phase is the post customer satisfaction. How do we retain these customers and keep them happy so they can promote our business, and that cycle could kind of just keep flowing. So what exactly HubSpot is we are a all-in-one customer platform. So I like to say that we are a growth platform. It's easier to say. But what that basically means is we're a one-stop shop for all your marketing, sales, and service operations, you name it, powered under an AI customer platform. So what this means is that a lot of businesses, they face challenges with having too many tools. And what that means is that it gets difficult to get visibility into how their metrics are running and how to make strategic decisions. So HubSpot kind of provides them a unified view to be able to really like understand their customer journeys and resonate with their customers to be able to understand their pains and solve them. So I assume that you guys know what a CRM platform is, but just in case there's anyone who doesn't, a CRM platform is a customer relationship management platform. What that does is it gives businesses a single source of truth that lets them know all the data needed to make strategic decisions, strengthen relationships with customers, and just keep them like in the flywheel, just keep them engaged, keep them delighted and ensuring the best possible experience no matter what kind of industry you're in. Is there any questions, at least so far, in terms of CRM or anything that I'm keeping an eye on the chat just in case, but if there's no questions, I'll keep going.
I had a question actually.
Yeah. What's up?
You said that one of the biggest problems businesses face is that they have too many tools.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other examples of like other problems they might face as why they
Yeah,
would choose Spot?
yeah, totally. So there's a whole lot of issues that come to mind. It truly depends on what role you're talking to. So that we're going to touch on this a little bit later on understanding your persona and your buyer. But a little bit of context, I'm a BDR here at HubSpot, so I am like the direct line of the who speaks to these prospects that are having these challenges with. And some of the examples, other than a disparate tool system where they're lacking visibility, just some surface level challenges would be, if you're talking to marketing roles, it would be lead generation, not getting visibility into their ROI, um, and then not having a consistent way to communicate across multiple teams. And then with sales, there's some other ones as well, like no way to track your KPIs, how to get visibility into your pipeline. But these are all really higher level information that, at least for the boot camp, I don't know if it's 100% necessary, but if it comes to that, we will get there. I'll explain a little bit more after. Does that answer your question so far?
Yeah, sorry for getting ahead of myself,
No,
but
no worries. I
really
do the same
appreciate it.
thing. I do the same thing. Um, so this is the HubSpot CRM platform. It's the united platform to just help businesses of all levels grow but better. Part of the things at HubSpot is that we are tiered, so there's different tier base values depending on what it is that you want to achieve or where you're at. So we do this by unifying marketing, sales, and service under one platform, and these are just some of the features that we have that kind of go into that CRM platform. Whether it be the reporting dashboard is one that I use every day, task, and yeah, these are very specific features, but I wouldn't focus too much on features rather than the benefits of the problems that you're trying to solve. So when we talk about HubSpot, there's obviously a couple different hubs. So the hubs that you'll be talking about kind of determine what persona you're talking to. So if you are meeting with a marketing leader, chances are that you will mostly be talking about Marketing Hub and its benefits of what issues they're trying to solve. So what Marketing Hub is it's also a CRM powered platform that has everything that is needed to find and engage those new stranger prospects and nurture them into leads so we can hand them off over to sales. And the way that this happens is mostly through inbound leads and very warm contacts. On the right, we have a ton of features that kind of go into it, whether your teams use it or not. It is a per persona basis, so not everyone will need every feature. So that is why, like, one of the things that I like to say and try to give advice on is try to avoid getting too much into features or feature dumping, because a lot of times, at least personal experience, I'm talking to prospects and there's a lot of these features on here that don't really apply to the prospect. So it's very important to active listen, ask the right questions, and see what the true pains are, so then you can use your time most effectively and pick what certain features match your persona. So yeah. Okay, so the Marketing Hub, I explained a little bit, but why is this important? It's so that marketers can have that data right at their in their visibility to be able to segment their audiences, kind of understand their prospect profiles a little more, be able to use automation to make their jobs a little bit easier and nurture those contacts and turn them into warm leads. This also helps with creating a consistent platform without really having to rely as much on a web developer or a solutions architect, and it just automizes the process a little bit more, so you can do more with less. And this one in yellow is incredibly important, the report on ROI on your marketing efforts. As someone who speaks with marketing leaders every single day, this is probably the phrase I say the most, is reporting on ROI is incredibly important. These are how leaders get visibility into what's working and what's not, whether it be a Instagram campaign, TikTok campaign, Facebook leads, whatever it may be, this is the number, I guess, like the one of the highest insights that they need in order to make their decisions. And then lastly, it's just to keep your messaging consistent across all platforms, whether it be brand voice, blogs, content, whatever it may be. It's important to stay with the same brand voice. Okay. Is it all white? Let me see. Can you guys, you guys can see my screen or no?
It's all white.
Okay, then let me stop sharing real quick because
No, I can see it. The issue is that someone else opened the share screen, so you have to
Yeah,
switch
I'm
the
sorry,
tab.
no, someone else opened share screen. I'll just remove that one
Oh, okay, no problem.
so that we can just focus on that. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, for sure, no problem. Okay, let me open up the chat again just in case because I had it. Okay, perfect. So yeah, like moving on into Sales Hub, all these different like personas, they kind of align in some way or another. So the way that Sales Hub comes in is it's all about time saving. Sales Hubs gives you the insights for your prospects, automate the tasks that could take up a lot of time and help you close deals faster. What that kind of means is that with any deal, you always want to know your prospects, you want to know their pains, and sometimes you have a multi-thread of either a BDR touching an account or an account executive touching an account. So it's very important to maintain that consistent communication and understand what the pains are. So how a sales hub or a CRM helps is to have those notes of the customer profile and you understand what they're looking at, when other sales conversations have taken place to kind of understand where they're at currently and not do any overlap. And just surface level, some of the features that I see that are most relevant, at least to me, are email sequences. What that means is that this is how we get to engage prospects and keep them top of mind by staying constantly engaged with them and making sure that we're following up. It's very easy to lose track of customers if you don't have something like this in place. Calling is obviously huge. Access to recorded calls, being able to learn from your mistakes and seeing what could have been said, and just highlighting objections that you face. So like when a rep gets on the call maybe a year out, they have that access. Some of the more important ones too is meeting scheduling, pipeline management. That's another issue that sales leaders face a lot, is being able to get visibility into their pipelines, how accurate the CRM data is and user adoptability, and tracking the prospect through each stage of the customer journey is incredibly important. And that's possibly going to show up in some of the pain points that sales leaders face. Oops. Sorry, kind of got ahead of myself there. Okay, so because Hub is part of the HubSpot CRM platform, it like kind of explained on this before, but it helps eliminate that friction, that overlap, and make sure that all teams are communicating effectively. So when marketing hands it off to sales and sales hands it off to marketing, everything is really smooth, ensuring the best customer journey. And some of the things that you could do, and this kind of applies to every hub, is again leveraging that automation and putting that prospecting on kind of like auto run mode. I use this every single day. So once I draft that initial sequence, that gets sent out automatically every once in a while, and I can make sure that all of my prospects are being touched on. And yeah, it just provides content, use case studies, very important for just building that trust and getting your prospects to trust you. And a lot of the main points that you're going to see within this conversation is just consistency across your platforms, being able to get visibility, and yeah. This one, I don't encounter too often, but it is one of the services that we offer. It's Service Hub. This is a pretty niche category. It's a customer service software that allows you to give the tools to kind of align service on top of those customer relationships, and this is how we keep them in the delight phase of the flywheel. And some of the things that are really important here are being able to have the best customer service. So whether that be AI agents with text, auto live capture, and feedback surveys, if there's anything along the process that maybe could have been done better, our prospects can let us know. And that's honestly the only way that we can improve. So those are always important. And yeah, just having, again, including that automation to make the experiences as seamless as possible. This creates knowledge as well for your brand, for your reps, for your customers that are already in that delight phase of the flywheel. And this also is incredibly important to be able to make strategic decisions about the future, with customer surveys, customer feedback. This all gets captured in the CRM, and then marketing can go ahead and take those insights and apply it to maybe next year's campaign or find new ways to keep our clients happy. And then this one's pretty interesting. I like this one because this one's pretty new. We came out with the Content Hub last year. What that means is, you guys have probably seen it. There's been such a big switch in leveraging content. It's one of the most effective ways to kind of release information. I don't know about you guys, but like I am not the type to read through like a 10-page article. If you get me with a really high quality TikTok ad or something that matches my genre of things that I'm willing to watch, these are like shown to be one of the most effective ways to do it. So what we try to do with Content Hub is growing organically through actual useful content, and we call this like warm leads. So providing useful information to build rapport, to build trust, and kind of automize it so we can do it in a very seamless way, has been very important with content leaders. And that's through omni-channel marketing. So when we're building campaigns off of LinkedIn, off of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, there's different formats that you could do, like video format, blogs, etc. And as an organization, it's very important to stay within that same brand voice. And Content Hub kind of automizes that with AI agents to ensure that your brand voice is consistent across all of those platforms. Create better content that is more targeted to your prospects. So if we have a group of university students, we're not gonna send advertising or content that has nothing to do with them, because they're not gonna be engaged. They're not gonna participate. It's gonna be a waste of ad campaign. So Content Hub kind of does that by using again that data built from all those interconnected hubs, and then leveraging that automation. And it also provides that ROI versus, like, let's say LinkedIn is doing better, so we can focus more efforts on LinkedIn this year or something like that. But that is kind of how the CMS/Content Hub plays into our structure. We're basically done with the HubSpot hubs part of the training. I want to take a moment here to kind of like address any questions, or if I'm going way too fast, or anything that you guys might want to surface. I'll be happy to kind of answer now if there is any.
Would we be able to get like maybe like a demo piece of HubSpot so we could kind of look around the service and get like hands-on use with it?
To be honest, Michael, I'm not sure. I don't think we're gonna do a demo, at least in this recording. I
Okay.
could be wrong. Rosario, if you have any thoughts on that, I'm not too sure if I'm supposed to do a live demo, but what you can do is, after this, I know this is being recorded, and at least from my experience in the training, you won't necessarily be doing a demo to your prospect while you're in competition. What you can do is use potential use cases, use your prospect information to kind of determine how you want to present that. But I could be wrong, but I don't think you have access to be able to do like a live demonstration of
Gotcha.
HubSpot platform.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Rosario, were you gonna say something? I saw that you got muted, so I wanted to check.
No, you're right with that information. And they'll
Okay,
be
okay,
receiving all the information with the role plays and so forth, so.
okay. And Kritan, you have a question?
Yeah. Well, hello, my name is Christian. First of all, I'm from California State University, Chico. I just have a quick question. One of the slides says reporting on the return on investment. I was just wondering how exactly they measure the ROI for that.
Yeah, so it's based on a multitude of things. So like on a simple way, obviously you could get a little bit deeper, but measuring the ROI, what that means, at least for let's say a marketing campaign, is you have your insights from your data that you've collected from the CRM. So I think it'll probably be easier to explain a situation. So like let's say I want to focus, I'm running 5 different campaigns, let's say TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and whatever else. The way we measure our ROI is if we are spending X amount of money on a certain campaign and we're noticing through data that 80% of our segment is leaning towards TikTok rather than the other 4, then we are getting that ROI by knowing that like our efforts that are being put here are leaning more towards TikTok. And then let's say we use that data to kind of die down the other platforms and focus more of our efforts on TikTok. After that strategic decision is made, we'll be able to see the data to see if it's working or not. Like we'll be able to tell how many, either let's say it's a webinar, how many subscriptions have happened since we made that strategic decision. Has it gone up? Has it gone down? How many active users are being engaged, replying to emails, signing up for newsletters, etc. And that's kind of how you get the return on investment there and continue to make those strategic decisions. Not sure if I answered that how you wanted, but let me know if that answered your question.
That was a very clear answer. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now we're gonna get into the portion that's more what you guys are gonna be focusing on, which is the competition itself. And what it is that you're gonna be competing in English or Spanish for 3 competition rounds. And this is for each language. So what I have done in the past, I'm speaking for myself, is if you have the benefit of knowing both languages, even if you're not that proficient in them, what I did was I signed up for Spanish and for English just so I could get the best chance of winning either. And it's a good practice to practice in both languages. And yeah, I think if you can, I would suggest to do both.
Right. Oh, just to give some context on that, the international competitors are all competing in both languages, English and Spanish. The FIU competitors that are in their own track, competing against each other, not against the other schools, have a choice. But yeah,
okay.
everyone who's in here who's doing the international, you'll be doing both. I know I have a few FIU students in here as well, so that is relevant to you guys.
Oh, okay. That's understood. So that's great. So you guys have good chances. And so basically with these rounds, each of them is supposed to simulate each stage of the buyer's journey or the customer journey. Do you guys have any questions about at least the competition format before jumping into the actual rounds?
Yeah, will you guys let us know which stage you're at? Like you said, each round is designed to simulate a stage.
Yeah, so kind of a good question, David. So with the buyer's journey in general, it's always gonna follow the same stage. They're not gonna like put you in, let's say, closing when you haven't even done report. So how the structure works is that it's always gonna begin with that initial meeting, and that's gonna be the discovery phase. So no matter what, like it kind of like follows a very consistent sales process, how it realistically would be very similar to real life in a actual customer buying journey. And I'll touch on that a little bit now. So the first one, which is the round 1, which is gonna be the first buyer's journey, is always the first introductory call is what we like to, an intro call or a disco call is what we like to call it. Important stuff about this round. It's all about getting to know your prospect. So initially, like we'll touch on this later. It's one of the facts of the thing. Unfortunately, part of the stigmatization or stereotype of the business is that salespeople aren't trustworthy. So it is important to get to know your prospect and build that trust and rapport, to be able to get them to open up. And how we do this is through a quality discovery phase. So it's gathering information and discuss and truly understand what your prospect is facing. A lot of the people sometimes get into one of the common mistakes is just naming out all those features that I mentioned in the past without truly understanding what your prospect is experiencing. And that's why an important discovery call is essential to this first round. And lastly, like you want to be able to, one of the goals of this round is to just secure a second meeting and have them agree, to then go on to the next stage of the sales process. Is there any questions about this round?
I wanted to chime in really quick. I've just put a link in the chat for you guys. For anyone watching this recording in the future, it is on the GBSC website. But essentially, the scoring guidelines, which I've put the link to, has information on which skill set is being weighted for each round. So you'll notice if you look at it that, for example, in round one, the identification of needs is weighted very heavily because, just like Anna was saying, that it's important to, to have a lot of discovery in this round. So that's weighted at 50%. In round two, it's weighted a little bit less, well, significantly less at 15%. And we have more weight, on the overcoming obstacles and the product presentation. So do look through that when you have a chance. I think it's on the next page. If you want to go to the next
This one?
Angel, yeah, it's that one.
Okay.
So, and that'll just say like the questions are the same for each round that the judges are filling out. So the page prior to that just has like all the questions that the judges see. And then the way that it's weighted is just what changes between rounds. And that's how you know what's kind of like the most important thing in each round.
Yeah. And I would study this 100% because they are pretty to the T when it comes to this. So it's pretty accurate what you see here. So definitely focus on the areas where the percentage is higher, if you want to increase your chances of doing the best that you can. And Gabby, I don't know if this is 100% right. I was a little confused about this, but with the Ripple check-in, is that what you were doing manually, or should I take a moment to?
Oh, so that's for you. That's for HubSpot. So if you want to collect that data, I'm doing it just for the competition stuff.
Okay, so like if you guys don't mind, if you could just take a second to just scan and check in. I should have done it at the beginning, my bad. But let me know. Just put either a thumbs up in the chat whenever you guys are done.
It's telling me the check-in starts in about 2 months. Is that supposed to be like that, or is that good?
Actually, yeah, it might be. I might be confused. Gabby, do you know anything about that, or that's more on a HubSpot
No,
end?
I think that's probably Vanessa has the answer to that, but I'll
Okay.
send you guys the names anyway so that you're aware of
Okay, perfect.
it if
Yeah.
just in case. Obviously, I'm not able to share like the contact information. I think that's what this might be for, but I will share the names just in case.
Okay, this might be for the actual like event registration, so that might be. I might be confused on my end, but okay, we can. Oh, Christian, I saw you have a question.
Me?
Yeah, you had your maybe it was from before the hand up.
Yeah, no, it was
Oh
from
yeah,
phone.
no worries. All right. Well,
Sorry, my fault. I had it on no, mine was on mute, but my name is Christian from Georgia State.
Oh,
And
hi.
yeah, my fault.
You're good.
My question was just the round one, how long is it normally? How long does this round normally take? How long should it be?
So
Is there
each
a
of
time
the
limit?
rounds you'll have 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15.
Okay, sounds good.
And it is like hard stop. So like take that 15 minutes very literally.
And
Yeah.
then yeah, so let's say you do under 15 minutes. Is that as long as you secure that second meeting, you meet other criteria, you're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you
so
finish early, that's not a problem. I'm sorry, yeah, if you finish early, that's fine. That's not usually an issue. Just, make sure that you're kind of addressing everything that you need to in that round.
Thank you.
exactly, very true. So then we get on to like if you successfully move on after round one and secure that meeting, like Gabby said, that is the most important part. You could finish early, but just make sure the time management, I would say, is probably one of the most important. I've done this competition maybe 2, 3 times, and at least for me, the hardest part was always time management and just keeping track of what you could do in that 15 minutes and make sure that you are confirming that meeting for the next round.
I would say, guys, always practice with a timer. And also, just a tip, the first round is virtual. If you want to have a timer in front of you, you can. You wouldn't do that at a in-person meeting because that would seem pretty strange. But if you want to have a timer in front of you so you know how much time is left, then I don't see any problem with that for round one.
Yeah. And then in terms of round two, the point of this round is to just get any additional information that you need to discover about the prospect and present a possible solution that benefits the prospect's issue. So this is why you'll get this information provided to you as well, but the effective questioning in the first round is important. This is what's going to determine kind of what case studies you use, what pain points you decide to touch on, kind of explore more of the actual issues being presented. And yeah, just secure the final meeting in the process. This is also going to be, I believe, the area where you might come across, well, I think every area you're going to come across, but come across objections and be able to resolve them and make sure that you are able to clear up any objection before moving on to the next part. With this additional discovery phase, one of the things that I can say is that when I did this, I tend to overcomplicate the process. And one of the tips that I would like to give is that just focus on the simple questions and like always think in your head like the whys. So like I still practice this day to day in my current sales role is just asking why. A lot of times prospects hide information just because we haven't built that trust yet. And the simple act of just asking why gets you so far. And once you do that, just getting the impact of what they want to achieve and what they're currently doing is incredibly important just to have a conversation more than interview, I guess. And then the final round is to get any other last details, reconfirm that what you guys have talked about in the past meetings is still relevant, or if anything has changed, if the business has changed, and just make sure everyone is on the same page. Another one is this is gonna be like the more intricate like needs resolution / value proposition phase of the rounds. You're gonna try to explain as clearly as possible where HubSpot's values come in based on the issues that were presented. And if you've gotten this far, you've most likely have had the prospect agree with the challenges that they're having. You've had them agree with why this is impacting their business, and you've had them agree why a potential HubSpot solution could benefit the future of the business. And here you're going to want to try to close that potential deal with the prospect, have them sign, have them agree to the meeting, whatever it may be. And that is the round 3. Any questions about any of the rounds? We could go back to round 1, 2, 3, anything that might have popped out. Okay, seems like we're pretty good. So if you guys want to take a second, this is the seller's guide, I believe Gabby might have been talking about earlier. If you guys want to copy that, this is recorded. You will have all the resources for these I guess content. I would study this a lot. I know when I was doing it, I was looking at the the seller's guide, the buyer's guide, everything. And it's incredibly helpful to kind of judge how you're gonna play things. Yeah, Christian?
Yeah, the other question I had was, how many people are going to be in the room with you? I mean, I know sometimes these decisions, you're talking to a manager or whatever the case may be, but do you start with like some type of manager first, gatekeeper, and then you go into you go into a room with 2 people, 3 people? How does that work?
So it's gonna be you and the buyer. It's only gonna be those 2 people. It's gonna be you and the buyer, and you'll get the information needed a bit before the competition. But typically, what happens is you're gonna be talking to someone that is on the decision level of making power. Your job, I guess, as a sales rep, is to identify what the decision making structure in that company looks like, because you might be meeting with Christian, who's VP of sales, but the actual person that makes the decision is someone else in a different department. So just make sure you uncover what the decision making process is. But as in terms of like the actual competition, there's not going to be, unless anything has changed, but typically in the past it's been one buyer, one seller.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I think someone else raised their hand. I'm not 100% sure, but
Yeah, I was gonna ask,
yeah.
at any point will we be like switching between buyer and seller? Like, will we alternate or no?
So no, in this competition structure, you're gonna be the seller all the time. What is common though is when you are training and practicing for this competition, I have found it incredibly helpful to do exactly what you said, to alternate between buyer and seller. And I highly, highly recommend if you have like a partner to do this with, because by putting yourself in the shoes of the buyer, you're gonna be able to kind of switch your mindset and know how the buyer is going to think, especially if you're a little harsher with your training partner. And it kind of helps you, like if you have to put yourself in the shoes of the buyer and come up with objections, it just kind of sets you up a little bit further to overcome those objections if they actually give them to you because you thought of the same objections. So like I would definitely alternate buyer and seller, at least on a one-on-one training before the competition. It's very, very helpful.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And then this is we touched about this a little bit before. This is the document that Gabby shared. This is how you're gonna be judged, and it's gonna be the approach, identification of needs, product presentation, overcoming the obstacles and objection, closing, and general skills. There's gonna be a very, very detailed rubric of the weight categories of this, and it's very important to just kind of study that and see what is important, what it is you need to do, what it is you need to focus on. And also like through that one-on-one training that you'll have either by yourself or with a friend or with a partner, this is kind of where you're gonna see where you struggle at the most. From what I've seen, a lot of the times people tend to struggle mostly on the overcoming objections and the closing. But some people struggle in different areas, so it's important to trial and error and see which area is the one that you might need to focus on a little bit more than others. For the approach, this is just rapport building. One of the common mistakes that I see is just either doing it for too short of a time or doing it for way too long. And I want to emphasize that like this 15 minutes goes by like this. Like it feels so fast. So like time management and practicing and knowing what kind of like steps you need to take to transition smoothly into the next portion of the call or the conversation is gonna really help your competition. So with the report, this is just kind of like just be yourself. Just a lot of people just make random comments or just focus a couple maybe a minute or two on just conversation. When you get the actual information, very important just to be detailed and look if there's any secret little information that you could pick to build that rapport. So like if it says I've been working with CEO for 10 years, maybe touch on that. Maybe touch on the notes and details that are in there. Or a lot of the times, at least for what I did, it's a role play. Like, thankfully, it's not real life. So don't be afraid to get creative and also just throw in whatever you want. I remember when I was doing the competition, I would talk about how beautiful the headquarters office was when there is no headquarters office. I would talk about nearby restaurants, stuff like that in that rapport building, and just kind of go with the flow and see what it is. Worst case scenario, you compliment their tie, their outfit, whatever it is. But that's kind of it. Identification of needs. The important part here is just making sure you're asking the right questions. Don't overcomplicate questions too much. But just get what you need to be able to get all the info and data that you need to present a, a well-structured value proposition or product presentation, because it's going to be really difficult to, in real life, to build a value proposition if you didn't get all the info that is kind of required in order to make that suggestion. Because you're, in their eyes, you are the industry expert, you're the professional, and you did the time and the research to get to know what value are they getting out of their solution. And if you uncover and overcome all the objections, whatever they may be, then make sure you resolve them, make sure there's no other objections. And if you do this all right, then the closing should be pretty smooth. Just ask your trial close questions, feel the prospect out, and kind of play like that, depending on how much time you have. I know I was speaking for quite a bit there. Is there any questions in relation to how you're being judged, anything like that? All right, I think we are good. So, talked about this earlier, but people generally distrust salespeople because of like that sleazy car salesman right there. In the field that we are in, typically we don't come across this as much. You guys are seen as industry experts. You guys are like presenting HubSpot, which is a very well-recognized company, and there is some already trust and rapport there. But still, that distrust is kind of still engraved into people. So just, yeah, you kind of overcome that by asking the right questions, providing solution, building that rapport. And yeah, I kind of touched on this already. So we talked about the approach. Just kind of touch on it again. Not too minimal. Don't just say hello and get right into business. And like I said before, don't spend too much time on it. These are the musts. I didn't touch on these too much. Make sure that when you're coming into the room, some best practices are you want to introduce yourself, you want to shake hands, you want to say hello, say your name. They are not sure who you are or who you're working for, so make sure that you introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Angel. I'm coming on behalf of HubSpot. And then what I like to do is just keep manners also in mind. If you're standing, be like, oh, is it okay if I have a seat? And get into rapport building, whether it be traffic, whatever it is. And after you finish all the report with the either whatever fun or normal creative way you want to go ahead about establishing a rapport, make sure that you guys still have the setup time included. If they said it was 15 minutes, 10 minutes, make sure that hasn't changed. Be like, hey, thank you again for taking this 10-15 minutes to meet with me. Just wanted to make sure that this is still a good time. If this is still good for you, they'll confirm whatever it may be. And then you want to go into setting up an agenda. Picture your persona. They're probably having a very busy day. Make sure that they know what you're there for. This is probably their 5th discovery call of the day. So make sure HubSpot, I'm Angel. I'm here to kind of learn a little bit more about your business, learn a little bit more about your challenges, and see if there's anything that we could talk about that we might align on. Yeah, so just I kind of touched on that. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. when it comes to, I guess, needs discovery, this kind of goes back into getting into the mindset of your persona, really understanding their pain points. What are they selling? How do they sell it? Who do they sell it? What's their target market and their ASP? There's a very different selling approach if you're selling a product that is worth $500,000 versus selling a $20 product. It's completely different business models, and that is incredibly important to know. Who are some of your competitors? You want to be competitors aren't too important, but you want to be familiar with them. You want to make sure that you're never talking bad about your competitors. Focus on your strengths and divert the conversation to maybe what other users have experienced with competitors in the past without making it seem like you're talking bad about them. A quick example that I could think of ways to do this is, let's say we're having the communication about HubSpot, Salesforce comes into play. The thing you don't want to do is, oh, Salesforce, terrible platform, everyone hates it, they suck. But what you do want to do is be like, oh, Salesforce is a great platform, but speaking with other leaders like yourself, I've noticed that marketing leaders typically have challenges with X, and X issues. And that's kind of like a mature, respectable way to kind of divert the competitor objection and focus on what you're there for, which is to highlight HubSpot strengths. And another part is make sure you know the decision-making power, what their responsibilities are. And another thing that I would add is, why is it so important that they're meeting with us? What do they want to fix? What do they want to solve, and why now? Basically, yeah, who cares about it? And then, yes, it's very important to ask your effective questions because, like I said, you don't have too much time. So being able to select your questions and what they are very important. The way that the Sales Society kind of does a really good job about this is teaching us to ask open-ended questions, so not fixed questions or closed questions, so that we can let the prospect kind of talk. What I've noticed in my role as well, if silence is so good sometimes, if you ask a question open-ended and be like, why is this important to you and your business? Like, what's that affecting? And you just stay quiet. Like, a lot of the times they will fill that silence and start like giving out all the information you need. But that's a hit or miss, but that's just my piece. But by having those effective open-ended questions, it gives you a lot to work with and gives you a lot of information, and information is the most effective thing that you could do to close them. Active listening, incredibly important. A lot of times I am victim to this myself when I was competing, is I have 10, 20 features in my head that I memorized, and I come in thinking that these features are going to apply to the prospect. But if I'm not listening to what their actual problems are and connecting those, I could know 30 features. If none of those features align to the prospect's pains, then I am not doing a good job as a seller. How we avoid this is by just asking those right questions and then actually taking the time to listen to them and hear what they're facing. Following up on additional questions by knowing what you hear and overcoming those objections and being like, hey, I heard that you said that you're worried about this. I want to acknowledge that, and I want to like let you know that for this reason, that's not a really too big of a concern, or social proof them by saying like, hey, a lot of other leaders have had the same concern, so I understand. And then you go into why we're different and why that can be fixed. Let me see if I already didn't touch any of these. Okay, so I didn't touch on this one. Don't pitch the product after just 1-2 questions. There's a lot of information that you need. So even if you think you killed it with those 2 questions, there's more questions to be asked. There's other sections of the business that might have also some challenges. And And then, yeah, just asking those level 2 questions. What that means is just ask your questions and understand the importance of them and what the impact of them. So like if your prospect tells you they're having a tough time generating leads, be like, what systems are you currently using to generate those leads, and what is the result of not having the right system to be able to track that? How does that impact the business? That's a good level 2 question. And then, yeah, just spend the majority of your time uncovering that pain. Pain is leverage. If you don't have leverage, you're not giving the prospect really a reason to meet with you a second time. Any questions on that so far? I know I was rambling there a bit. Okay, I think we're good. So GPCT is goals, pain, challenges, timelines. These are like the go-to things that you want to uncover on the discovery call. They're kind of what set the stage to further the process, the sales process. So you want to uncover what they're trying to do, why they're trying to do it, what they're currently having challenges with, how it's impacting them. And another important one is really like, what is the timeline of their business structure? Like the sales process, it gets determined by the timeline because it's a very different approach to if they want a solution in 2 months versus if they're already planning for 2026 and it's a longer term solution. So there's some example GPCT questions that are linked here, and these are pretty good on what you could kind of use as a worst case scenario. You could copy these down, and if you get stuck, just have those core questions that you could always revert back to. If you kind of get nervous or whatever, you could always use those. Some of the examples are like a prospect mentioned that they're not. That's crazy. I didn't even read this yet, and that's example I referenced. But yeah, the generating enough leads and needing more demand, and then just leveraging that and tailor your response to what they're saying. So in this case, it would be just positioning like, oh, have you thought about using a CRM to solve that? Have you thought about using a blog? Have you thought about using this? Use your features as benefits to solve that question. And I mentioned positioning statements before. Typically that's used and said before asking like a very direct question to someone. And what the purpose of those is to be able to get your why behind the question. If you don't get that, that's why you just follow up and drive like the impact of it instead. So we also touched on a little bit about this before. I think this is a very important part of your like competition structure is the implications and consequences. And what I learned like throughout my time in HubSpot and through the Sales Society is that when you're speaking with a prospect, if you don't have implications and consequences, it makes it very difficult to have a conversation. What this means is that implication and consequences really drive those conversations forward and makes it feel like a conversation. And if you're able to do that, the process becomes so much easier because it feels like you're coming from just straight up pitching a product to actually understanding their pains, to understanding why they want to solve it. And it just makes it seem like you're talking to a friend rather than selling this whole platform. And my go-to that I like to say is actually the one that's listed on there is how is it impacting your business? How's it affecting the business? And they'll be able to tell you if they are the leaders that they say they are. They're going to say something like, oh, we're not getting any ROI. We're losing leads. We're losing X amount of money. We're losing X amount of growth. And these are all very big pains. And if you could tie your benefit, your solution to those pains, there should be no reason, realistically, why they wouldn't agree to a second meeting. And that's kind of the whole point of these rounds is to have them agree to the pain, agree how HubSpot can help, and move on to the next round. So some of the things you don't want to do is start talking about product until you finish the needs identification. this is a common like mistake that happens everywhere, is that people start listing features like crazy. We call it feature dumping. So they start talking about features that aren't relevant to the prospect. And the reason that this happens is they didn't ask effective questions to understand the pain. So then you realize time's running out and you don't have enough information and you didn't uncover enough information to tie which features or benefits actually relate to your prospect. So you just end up naming almost all of them and seeing what actually resonates with the buyer. To avoid this, the things you do want to do is speak in those benefits and solution-based selling rather than just feature dumping. And give just enough info to be able to pique their interest. It's very easy to just tell them everything about the product and how it's going to solve their needs. If you give them too much, you basically gave them the demo, and there's not really enough interest to kind of like pique their curiosity. One of the things we like to say that is like my go-to mantra is just be brief, be quick, be gone. Just solve their issue, pique their interest, and save the rest for the next round. Visual aids are great. As you could tell, like sometimes people can only hear people talk for so long. Visual aids kind of break that routine and get them actively engaged, especially if they're nervous, especially if they're who knows what they're thinking about. But if you break that pattern and show them something, it's like now they have to pay attention. They could just be thinking about another thing, but that kind of breaks that. And then, yeah, it involves the buyer in the discussion. And trial close questions are very important, especially if you're running out of time and know that there's still some objections. What I mean by that is by asking trial close questions, you identify that there's no further objection to be had. So if I give you an objection and then my trial close questions is, how does that sound? Does that sound does that sound interesting to explore, or like is it worth chatting more, or whatever the trial close question might be? It gives you the sense of their energy. If they are very, very not trusting of you, if they don't think your solution is good, you'll pick up on their vibes based on your effective trial questions. So is there any questions other than these right here that have come up since going through kind of the rounds and what you can expect and do's and don'ts? Okay, seems like no, so that's good. So one of the questions that you could consider is, what is the difference between features and benefits? That's a good one. So like we said, we want to avoid feature dumping. So by listing out features, these are just things that are included in the platform, versus benefits are by using these features, what is that going to solve for my business? Like, what is the benefit of implementing this feature? And what is I guess, the impact that it resolves? At least that's how I like to think about it. And what do we mean by just enough information? Kind of touched on this a little bit before, but it's not divulging too much information so you can keep the prospect engaged enough to agree to a second meeting. They won't do that if you already gave them too much. These are some example visual aids that you could pull out in the value proposition section of the competition. So you could use ease of use. So it's just showing how easy it is to use and the convenience of having a platform that is either centralized or just automated. That kind of leads into the other one, is automated lead management. If you could get your prospect to identify why generating leads to that website will result in like an effective business process, whether it be booking more meetings, scheduling more demos, whatever that may be. And you could use this as a visual aid by taking their current process, and you find this also through effective questioning, how many demos they're booking a month, how many leads are coming in a month, and how many leads they could have by leveraging HubSpot. And then, yeah, enhanced reporting. These are just a lot of features that are also benefits of HubSpot. And then for overcoming obstacles, some of the don'ts, you don't want to ask for the next meeting without checking those concerns. Like I mentioned before, make sure that you're double checking or double clicking that the objection that they had is no longer a concern. And don't ignore any of the emotional responses and go straight to the solution. You might get a pricing objection and be like, oh, that's way too high of price. Don't just skip over that and be like, oh, no, it's not. You want to be able to understand where the objection is coming from, whether it be they're scared, they need urgency, whatever the emotion behind that, and understand their objection, and then respond to it. I think it's called LARC. It's listen, acknowledge, respond, react or something like that. But make sure that you're following through that process and acknowledging it, resolving it, and then moving forward once you are for sure that it's no longer a concern. And what kind of questions can you ask to start that conversation about those concerns? It's kind of similar to what I was saying, but acknowledge that there is a concern. Don't gaslight them and say like that doesn't exist. Make like what I like to do is called social proofing. So if you're talking to a marketing leader, be like, hey, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, like this is something that I hear very often from other leaders. You're totally not in that boat by yourself. A lot of the times when I speak to these leaders, they're having these challenges, and the way we've been able to solve them is by X, X, and X. And that's how you kind of get across that objection and assure them that like other people have been in your shoes. Now it's time for you to solve that issue and join them. That's basically how I like to do it. And then what is this? What's your knowledge of HubSpot? My bad, I can't see because of the thing. So yeah, put yourself in the buyer's roles. So like if you were running a business, some good questions that you could ask yourself is, what would you need or what would you want to get the business off the ground? What would you need to do or what is necessary to get your brand in front of your audience? And kind of the delight stage is, how do you support them after you buy? So this kind of goes back all the way to the front when we talked about that flywheel, about attracting, engaging, and delighting. They're all very important parts of the buyer's journey. And these are all good questions to put yourself in the buyer's shoes. So this, I don't think you guys are going to touch too much on, but I'll mention it anyway. These are our packages that are offered by HubSpot. What this means is that there's the free one, which is like in the word, it's free. Anyone can use this. It's very, very limited. A lot of students typically use free. And then there's starter. Starter is typically for very, very small businesses. It's about maybe $20, $100 a month. Very, very small scale. Typically, these people only want to use like a CRM and a couple other things. Professional, this leans more into medium-sized businesses. So anywhere between 10 employees, 50 employees, 100 employees. Professional actually has a pretty wide net. This starts to get more expensive. Marketing Pro and stuff is like maybe 1,000 plus per deal, depending on what features and benefits they want to add into their packages. And then there's enterprise. These are the Facebooks, the Microsofts, the giant corporations of the world. These are very large deals, and you want to determine where your prospect falls in this, based on what package you're gonna present. And then when we talk about AI, this is a AI customer platform. We released Breeze a little bit a while ago. This is our AI agent. I'm not sure if this is updated because this actually like just came out recently. I would have to double check with Gabby and see if Breeze is part of the competition. But
I will double check now, but as far as I'm aware, this is the new presentation and the new guide that was just put up today.
Okay. Well, yeah, so Breeze is just our AI agent. It's using AI to kind of automate that process even more. So content agent is reaching your audience, tailoring direct content to them, and just automating the process as much as possible. We have many different AI agents, like the content, the social media, the prospecting, and the customer agent. These are just like, basically think about it like your chat GPT of HubSpot. It does everything in the back end for you and just helps you prospect more effectively. And then there's this short video.
Chances are,
what
if
it
you're
is.
growing a business, you already know the value of AI. You're using it and you're seeing results, but not everyone is on the same page, and for good reason. Most AI tools are disconnected from businesses and their data, not to mention they're hard to adopt and even harder to use. But here at HubSpot, that's not how we do things. We think it's time to make AI easy. Introducing Breeze, our set of AI technologies across the entire HubSpot customer platform, designed to make growing your business easier than ever. And it's fueled by the critical data you need to get up and running fast and see value even faster. No steep learning curves, no question marks, just a breath of fresh air in an often intimidating world of AI. And here's just a taste of what it can do for you. Breeze Copilot to help you do your work better. Breeze Agents to do more of your work for you. And Breeze Intelligence to give you actionable customer insights, all of it working together across the customer platform to deliver huge results for marketing, sales, and service teams. With Breeze, you'll get an easier, more unified AI experience. Check out all the latest updates in our fall spotlight and see how you can make work a breeze.
Yeah. So that is the Breeze new AI agent. What he said at the end is actually very important. The spotlight, that's pretty nice because the spotlight kind of like gives you a pretty good understanding of all the HubSpot like new updates in a easy to understand way without like giving you too much info that like is gonna be overwhelming. So I would take a look at the HubSpot spotlight if you want to get familiar with a bunch of the other tools. That's always pretty good.
Chances are,
I don't want to see that again. But the secret to learning HubSpot in general and for GBSC, like I said before, like it is important not to just go hub by hub, feature by feature, because that's you're gonna get bored. Like anyone would get bored. If I stood here for an hour and a half and told you all the features of HubSpot, like there's too many. Like you guys wouldn't want to hear that. But if I were to tell you and you guys were all business owners and I would tell you how individually each of the benefits of using HubSpot, you guys would be way more engaged. So you want to kind of practice that same structure for the competition. And if you do catch yourself just listing feature after feature, ask more questions and see how you can incorporate benefits instead. We touched on this already, but don't ask for the meeting right after the product presentation, and don't let the prospect push out the next meeting if you've uncovered a pain or urgent need. This is such good advice because even in like a real sales role, like I get the objection. Probably my number one objection is, oh yeah, let's push this out till later. Like, oh, let's plan for somewhere else. They're always like a lot of times they're gonna give you a timing objection, whether it be like, oh yeah, that sounds good, but no, let's meet Q4 instead of Q1. And if you've already done all the work to uncover a pain, that's already such a huge step. Don't backtrack and just let them go because they just naturally want to object. You have the pain. If you have the pain, if you have the impacts, push that meeting. Like they like most times will say yes. So like, if they're like, no, let's meet Q4, be like, wait a minute. We talked about the challenges and the goals that you have, how it's impacting your business. Like, can you explain to me, like, just out of my own curiosity, like, what is stopping us from meeting sooner? Like, isn't this pretty important? Like, why are we waiting so long to just have an exploratory conversation? Something light, just to kind of get them to understand, like, this is what they want. They're just like saying no to say no. That's if you have the reason and the pain that you guys talked about. But what you do want to do is recap the highlights of that meeting to just kind of get their challenges top of mind. So when you do ask for the meeting, it's fresh. So like once you get closer to the 15 minutes, they're probably going to throw some objections at you, resolve them, and be like, okay, now that that's resolved, just want to clarify, throughout this conversation, you mentioned that you were having issues with this, issues with this, issues with this, issues with that. I told you about how HubSpot might be able to align based on what you told me. This is what we could do. So let's move forward. And by recapping that, most likely they're gonna be like, oh yeah, we did talk about that. Let's move forward. Don't give too much info again. And this is very, very important. Asking for an actual firm future commitment. There's been so many times where either I'm low energy or I'm not in the mood to make some calls, because that is the realistic aspect of the job. And I don't make the commitment to do a firm close. So I don't ask them like, oh, let's meet Friday, 3 p.m. Like I'm sending you the calendar invite right now. And those people tend to no show. They never show up. So like when I don't do my diligence and I let the call go and I'll say like, okay, I'll email you later to set up a time, almost 9 times out of 10, they are gone. So it's very important while you're in there, you agree to everything. This is more the easy part. Be like, okay, let's meet X day, X time. Perfect. And then ask them if there's anyone else that they want to include in that call. And that's it. Make sure you get that actual date. Get the affirmation that they're ready for the next step, shake their hand and leave. That's another thing that you might run into. If you do a good job, a lot of the times, like the 15 minutes, yeah, it's short, but there could be a situation where you're done before the 15 minutes and you did kind of cover all those steps. If that's the case, you could either straight up shake their hand and leave the room, or you could stay. It's until that bell rings that's when you actually have to leave. Oh yeah, this is important too. I already talked about this, but if you guys don't do the firm close, these are just people. Like they're here to talk to you. So if you let them, they will run you out of time and without knowing, and you won't pass to the next round if you don't close in time. So make sure that the time aspect, this is like if you guys take one thing out of this meaning, if it's anything, it's the time management is so important. I've let prospects talk their ear off during the same competition, and I was not able to close the meeting because they talk too much. So make sure that you are directing the conversation and controlling it. Of course, letting them talk, but if it's not necessary and it can be avoided, don't let them eat up your time. That's very bad. But yeah, an example closing statement is, yeah, I kind of touched on this already, but based on what we discussed today, what you think would be the best next steps to take on your end? Who should we involve on the next call? And then the later rounds is, I would say also in the beginning rounds, is who's involved in that decision making process. And this is later rounds. What do you count on for implementation? And what's the timeline for implementation? And then this is, I think pretty much it. I think we're pretty good, perfect on time. I'd like to take the last 6-7 minutes and answer any questions that you guys may have, any concerns, any tips you might want.
Are these 15 minutes that we have, is that part of the actual role play, or is that just like a standard time that we have for the actual, sales process?
Yeah, so when you'll how it kind of looks, you'll be standing, typically how it is, you'll be standing outside the door, or the first one's virtual, but let's say there's a imaginary door. You open that door and you sit down. As soon as that door opens, the 15 minutes start. So this includes the report, this includes the needs discovery, objection handling, and the close. Like that 15 minutes is like as soon as it starts. Like they'll go 3, 2, 1, and then boom, 15 minutes.
I think,
So
I'm not sure, Michael, if you're asking like in general for like HubSpot, is that what they?
no, mostly what I refer to is would this, so let's say, because this is a role play, would the buyer also know that we have this 15 minutes?
Yes.
Like, would that be like incorporated within the sales? Will we be able to bring those 15 minutes up in the
Yeah,
discussion?
absolutely. No,
Okay.
I think, in fact, I think it's an important part of the, you know, the intro and the building rapport part, you know,
Yeah.
understanding the time you have. I think that's important. And yes, they will know that it's 15 minutes.
Okay.
Just so you guys know, the way that it works for the virtual is you're gonna come into a room like on Zoom, just like kind of how you are now. And there's gonna be a proctor in the room and they're gonna tell you, you know, I'm just getting ready, give me a second here, probably, and then they'll ask you, are you ready to start? And when you say yes, then they'll start the timer and then you can start speaking with the buyer. But yeah, if you move on to the next rounds and it's in person, just like Angel said, you're gonna, as soon as you walk in there, you're gonna start.
Yeah, and another thing, Michael, is with what you said about like if they know that it's 15 minutes, like Gabby mentioned it too, like if you rewatch this recording or do more practice, like it is one of like the checks that you'll kind of want to do in that rapport building intro. We talked about it a little bit before, is that asking the like reconfirming and being like, hey Michael, like thank you for meeting with me, just want to make sure we still have 15 minutes, is that right? And then that's kind of how you get around that. But yeah, is there any other questions?
No, that answered my question. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, Christian?
Yeah, my question to you is going to be, how many times have you competed in this competition when you were in school?
Yeah, I think I did the Panther sales tournament and the GBSC. I think I did it twice. Each. I did the Panther sales tournament maybe actually 3 times, and I think that I did the GBSC twice.
Yeah, the Panther sales tournament is we have that one in the fall, and that's just for FIU students. But yeah, I competed a lot. I think you did it 5 times.
Yeah, I did it a couple times. I don't even know, to be honest, but I did it a bunch because I was pretty involved in the sales society and I really like competing. And that's how I got the HubSpot job, to be honest. It's student networking through these events. I met Chrissy, I met a lot of people, and it put me in a good position. So like even if you guys are interested in something like this, connecting and networking at these events is so good for like future networking or whatever it is you want to do. A lot of cool people, very nice people. But yeah, it's great. I love doing these things.
Someone messaged me privately, but I'll just answer this question for everyone in case anyone is wondering. Round 1 is virtual. Round 2 will be in person, as well as round 3. So if you move on to round 2, we're going to do the scoring, you know, the same day. And we're going to be letting you know within a couple days of that first round who's going to be moving on to round 2. And those will be in person, and we're going to be meeting in Miami at FIU.
Okay, Michael, you had a question?
Yeah, this is not so much about the competition itself, but when we sign up for GBSC, are we automatically in the sales society membership, or is that something that we have to purchase on the side, like the $25 fee?
I think you have to purchase it on the side, but I think Gabby would be a better person to answer that question.
I will confirm what the sales society is doing, because I know that they sometimes run some specials, but yeah, can you email me separately and I'll find out.
Well, I will. Thank you.
I'll put my email in the chat if anyone needs it.
And Christian, you had a question?
Yeah, before we head out, I was gonna ask if there's any way you could put like your LinkedIn in the comments for us.
Oh yeah, 100%. Great question. Let me see what it is. I sometimes forget.
All right. While Anna's doing that, does anyone have any other questions about like GBSC in terms of like logistics or anything like that I can answer? All right, awesome.
I think we should do this actually. It might be this.
Yeah, we'll give you a minute to do that. Perfect. Oh, thank you, Michael. Michael also shared their LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
My LinkedIn or who's?
No, you put yours as well, Michael. Michael shared in the chat.
Okay, I think this is it because I don't know how to get the code. I think it's, where is it?
It's right on the link that's up there. Yeah, that's it. That's you.
Here, I'll put it here. In case any of you guys want to be my friends. All right, there it is. Oh, yeah, thank you guys for listening to me rant and talk for an hour and a half. Great questions. Thank you for participating. It's been fun.
All right, awesome. Thank you also everyone for being here. I just wanted to let everyone know again, the role plays are up already, so start studying those, start practicing with those. They're up for both English and Spanish, so you can start with both of those for everyone who's competing in both. And then the presentation, which Angel was sharing, is already also up on the website. So I'll put the website link also in the chat so that you can get all that. If you just go to the training and materials section, you'll find the guide and then the 2 role plays. We also have example role plays from last year, or sorry, from a couple of years ago. It's also with HubSpot, so you can kind of like get an idea of how those role plays went. And then we also have currently the trainings from last year up. This training we're just finishing now. It's gonna take a little while to kind of be able to buffer and transfer into something we can upload online. So tomorrow, most likely, you'll be receiving that. We will be updating the website as we have these trainings with the new training recordings so that you can watch those, and if there's someone on your team that wasn't able to make it, you can watch it with them, or you can just rewatch if there's any part that you need clarification on. Okay. I also put my email in the chat if you have any questions regarding GBSC. If there's anything that you need to know, please feel free to email me. I'm the program manager here at the Global Sales Center, so I can probably answer most questions for you, and then Rosario as well can help you out. So just email us and we'll help you out with anything related to the competition. Okay. But
also, Gabby, I wanted to say also, I don't know how many, the percentage of people at FIU, they go to FIU in this call, but I'm gonna be at the industry fair tomorrow. That's in person, right?
Yes, tomorrow is our kickoff industry fair here in person at FIU. So I know that we have a few FIU students here, so please come tomorrow. It's going to be at 6 p.m. in CBC.
Wow.
Yeah, so thank you for that. Does anyone else have any other questions before we close out for today? Awesome. All right, well, thank you everyone again, and please just reach out if you have any questions. We will see you all again very soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thanks
Thank you. Have a
everyone.
great day.